in the United Kingdom, and today I'm stamping around with the Stamp Around UK crew, and our theme for the day is romance. So I thought actually this suite, the Love You Always suite, was perfect, not least of all because I won the Always in My Heart as a prize patrol recently, and although I haven't got the dies to go with it, I still thought it was worth using this because it obviously is very much romance themed. So it's on page 10 of the catalogue, and you can see that it comes with some beautiful black and white paper, some lovely specialty DSP and some foil sheets. Now, I'd intended to order the specialty DSP, I didn't. I ordered the foil sheets. So the project changed slightly. The foil sheets are beautiful though. You've got 2 sheets of 12 by 12 each in Sahara Sand foil, Rococo Rose foil and Blushing Bride foil. So absolutely beautiful. You don't need much foil to make a project really stand out. So the project I've designed today is a kind of variation on the on an origami fold card, and it looks to start off with very like the napkin fold card, and I'll put a link into that one, but it isn't. It's actually, it folds out as you can see here. So as you can see, I've used the stamping on the inside of the card. I've just used a small piece of the foil, and rather than doing it with origami, I've actually scored it because I wanted to use card. Now that does mean that the joins are not possibly quite as neat as you might get with your origami fold, but and I've just die cut the heart on the front there, and I've hand cut, fussy cut, I haven't die cut at all, I've hand cut, not die cut. And the same with those flowers as well. And what I've done is I've used the beautiful ombre paper that we've got in Celebration at the moment with the Dainty Diamonds folder to give that effect. So that's using Rococo Rose because I've got the Rococo Rose ombre paper. And so actually what I thought I'd do is start using some of my designer series paper that tends to sit there and kind of be there in the background, which is the in colour and colour families. So these packs are 48 sheets, and they are all 6 by 6, but they have got these designs. So you've got a lovely kind of Hessian on one side, circles on the other, script on one, and wood grain on the other. And you get, as you can see, 4 sheets of those in each of the, I think it's 4 sheets of each colour, thereabouts. Is that right? I'll double check. 40 sheets, that's right, it's not 48 sheets, it's 40 sheets. It is 4 of each of the 10 colours, and then obviously in the in colour ones you get 8 sheets of each. But it just means you've always got paper that coordinates with your cardstock, which is fantastic. Right, so I better show you what to do. You're going to start off with a sheet of cardstock that is 21 by 21 centimetres, which I've got here. You're going to also need a strip, which I've just taken as 3 centimetres along the length of A4. You don't need it to be that long. And then you're going to need then a piece of Sahara Sand, and you're going to need a piece of Whisper White, along with some scraps for your stamped images and fussy cutting. So the piece of Whisper White we're going to need is just quite simply, it is 9 by 9 centimetres. So that gives you an idea of the size of the card. So I've just got a 1/4 sheet of Whisper White, there we go. And then you're going to need a piece of Blushing Bride foil, which is 6.5 by 6.5, yeah, which 6.5 by 6.5. You're going to cut that in half diagonally, and that's going to be for the front. You see that lovely shine on that as well. Okay, so I think that's all we've got. So then, to start off with, now we've done our cutting, I would recommend use a pencil or an erasable marker, because you're going to actually mark at 7 top and bottom and 14 top and bottom. Turn it once and do the same again. So it's 7 and at 14, like so. Now, tuck your cutting blade out, well out of the way, and we're going to score between those on the diagonal. So just line up those 2 marks in your track of your trimmer, and you're going to just do that on all 4 sides. So it's really simple, and once you've done the first couple, obviously you're lining it up with the edge of the score mark. And so this is just another way to kind of make a bit of a fun fold out card. As I say, it's kind of similar to the napkin fold card, and I've done a couple of sizes of those in the past as well. So based on origami, but obviously, as I say, with card, the origami doesn't work. You end up with kind of, if you're not careful, with sort of odd creases, and I don't like having those creases down the middle either, even if they're covered up by DSP and things. It's like, oh, don't like it. Okay, so there you go. Very simply, you're just creating this grid. And once you've done that, the important thing here is to fold and reinforce those. So fold them in. Once you've reinforced them, fold that one back on itself. And this erasable pen, I just come in and take those marks out as I've done each one. I say the stamp set itself is great. The fact that I got it as a prize is good. You see, this is lining up quite nicely on here. And I should have said, obviously I'm using the Blushing Bride cardstock here. So I'm just folding all of those in, and then this one back on itself and reinforcing. So you'll see now that this comes into the centre, and then these sides. And that's where, obviously, because it's taking quite a bit of bulk there, that's where you'll find the closure isn't quite as, it doesn't form immediately closed, but you really don't notice that. So there's our basic card. I've got my foil sheet. So this one I've already put some glue on. So just add that to the front there. And all I'm just using is just some standard adhesive on that. Probably should have got my non-stick mat out for that, my silicone mat. When I'm doing triangles, I do tend to use my silicone mat. I'll grab it in a moment. Okay, so there we go. There's our card. So next thing then is to stamp our large image. So this one, really do need this your stamping pierce mat for this, because it's not a really solid stamp, so you want to make sure that you get really good coverage on that as well. So I've got my stamp here, so I'm just inking that up and then just stamping that. Wait a couple of seconds, and look at that lovely stamped image. While I'm doing that, I'm going to stamp just one of these flowers, which I did 3 of. So once with the outline, twice with the outline, and then I've come in with the solid infill. So a really easy way to get that colouring done. Just stamp off once, and then if you just hover above your image, you'll see that'll line up, and you'll see that's where you get the lovely pale shade. I find if you stamp it full strength, you kind of, you know, it just loses a little bit. You can still see it, but I just prefer the stamped off to show you there. Okay, let's pop those out of the way. So then it's good old fussy cutting time. So with this, I kept a tiny white border around, or tried to at any rate. Just coming around that. And obviously with the dies it does make it much more precise. And you get a nice even border, but as I say, unfortunately I can't have everything. So there we go, there's my heart. And then with the flowers, I'm just following, I generally followed the line around rather than leaving a white border on these. So I'm just cutting those out. So I felt 3 of those was kind of enough. Let's say just to add those in. So you're going to cut yourself 3 of those flowers, and then we're going to do the stamping on the inside. So I stamped on this section and this section because I'm going to put some I put some DSP on the outer edges of it, and I used a mixture of stamps on this, but say because it was love themed, obviously the little hearts which you've got in here, and you've got a choice. You can either just use the hearts on their own, which are the outline hearts, or you've got these little infill ones that you could obviously then sort of infill, yeah, fill in, or you could use those on their own as well. So those are my 2 ones. I've got my flowers as well, and again with the flowers you don't have to fill them in if you don't want to. They look quite pretty on their own. So we grab our ink pad and let's start stamping. So with this stamping, I generally will start in the middle on something like this and then work my way out. And so you can do as much or as little as you want. I'm probably doing slightly less on this one than I did on the original. And then say a mixture of outline hearts on the top there, move blocks out of the way, and then some more solid ones which I'm actually going to come in and intersperse on here as well. And then just have a look, see if you've got any gaps that you want to sort of fill in with any of those. Actually, I rather like that that effect, so I might come in and do some more on that top section. And I'm saying you could also do those side panels if you wanted to as well. I chose not to. So now we can get on with decorating our inner panel as well. So it's just going to pop on the Sahara sand. So I chose the Sahara sand because obviously that's with the foil. Just acts as a nice contrast rather than just all pinks all the time. And then again for this centre panel, just keeping it simple. I'm just going to pop. You see, I'm just stamping off. I'm not using my stamping pierce mat on this. It's not so important on those. So, and the reason it is obviously because they're small stamps. So, and if you're stamping off the side, you just need to make sure you've got a piece of paper to take any excess. So you're not stamping on your stamping pierce mat. Otherwise, it ends up very inky, which mine often does. So I'm just making sure that that's centred. And that can then go on the inner panel of our so making sure that's up the right way. Okay, so now we're down to the panels. So for these panels you want 4 pieces of designer series paper that are 4.5 by 9.5 centimetres. And on the Dainty Diamonds folder it is really detailed, and it comes all the way through. So what you're going to want to do is decide what texture, what side you want, and then just line those up using the diamonds as a as a way to line them up. Pop them in your folder and then pop those through your embossing cut and emboss machine. It is a detailed one, it is a thicker folder, and actually, would you believe, they are actually quite difficult because they cut through, so I just have to bend slightly and peel those off. It's quite incredible, the level of detail that you've got in there. So, having done that, we can now add them to those front panels. So what we want to do is just add some glue to the back. Now, you may find, depending on which side you choose, you might find wet glue better. Because I'm choosing the kind of debossed side to go down, then actually I'm okay, because it is the glue is adhering to it, it's nice and smooth. But if you chose the debossed side to go up, you'd probably want some wet glue, because the glue doesn't run onto the adhere onto the embossed raised pieces quite so well. As I say, it's just shows how deeply detailed that is when you pop it through, and it's almost perforated. Well, in fact, it has kind of perforated through, but it's a beautiful effect. But I chose the textured side because I felt that to add circles onto something that's already got kind of triangles was just adding a bit too much pattern. Let's layer those on. Okay, and we're almost there. So all we need to do is fold that up, add glue just to the one side of your heart, and with it closed, just line that up with the centre, like so. Now, don't forget to pop around and see all the other inspiration on the blog, and the blog hop. The details are all down below. When you're creating the band for the back, start from the back to kind of get an approximate closure. So once that's done, you don't want it too tight because you want to be able to get it off easily, but just wrap it round, and then around about, I find sort of an inch is a good overlap on this one. And I will be using my Seal Plus here, because you really want a good good adhesion on there. So don't pull it too tight, just add that closed. And then all that remains is to add our flowers onto the back there. So Stampin' Pierce mat to the rescue, or to the use again. End of your bone folder tool, end of your scissors. You could use the end of your pokey tool. Anything that you've got that's a rounded end. I can't find my take your pick tool right this particular second. Typical, isn't it? There we go. It is hiding in plain sight. And just add some shape to the backs of these. Now you could add a strip of DSP if you wanted across the front there. All I'm going to do is just shape those. You see, just like so. Grab my dimensionals, some mini dimensionals here. And just look at that, perfect. I've just got 3 left on the. And obviously, if you wanted to, you could always add a bit of foil onto the front. But I rather like the fact that your kind of sentiment was sort of hidden away. And obviously, you could stamp that belly band too. In fact, looking at that now, perhaps a little bit of stamping might have enhanced it. But there we have our trio of flowers on the front. And as you can see, whether you choose Team Rococo Rose or Team Blushing Bride, a couple of really fun projects. So as I say, themes romance. If you fancy another romance, pop along to the others in the blog hop. The links to all of those are in the description bar below. Please do go along, and if you can leave a comment too, that really helps cheer our day, because we love to know that people are watching. Thank you for watching, and pop along to my blog if you want to purchase any of the products. All right, take care. Bye bye.